Hey everybody, this is Mrs. Marr, and this is probably the last in the series about self-portraits, and it's about refinement. Okay, it's about going beyond the color blocking. Uh, Video number 3 was the color blocking. Then we sort of took a sidetrack and did 4A and 4B, which was A was eyes, nose, and mouth. B was hair. I figure you're going to need those at different stages. But the bottom line is you want to block in the values, not so much color blocking, but value blocking in this case, basically with the vine charcoal. And then we're going to build it up slowly in terms of values, in terms of textures, in terms of particularly range of value. So this is color blocked. I have another version that's a little further along, but I wanted to show you one that didn't have any refinement at all. Couple housekeeping things, and this is as a mom, and actually as an art teacher too. Make sure that as you build up a lot of charcoal dust on your paper or on your table, take it, put it over a trash can and shake it out. Okay, carefully, almost upside down so it doesn't all move around on the paper. But do not just shake it out on the floor, please. I'm saying that for mothers everywhere. And also in the art classroom, same deal. You want to make sure you shake it out over the trash can for the janitor's sake. That's number one. Number two, if you're working in an area where you have already done, I just lost my stump, where you have already done some work, you want to put a piece of paper underneath just to protect what you already did and keep your arm a little cleaner. So, picking up the stump off the floor. What we want to think about with refinement is going in with a broader range of values. So, for instance, let's say we're working in the mouth. And we have a picture here. We want to be very conscious of what the values are in the actual photograph. Okay, so if the mouth is darker here, now we're going to refine over here and get more specific details and wider ranges of value. Now, having said that, you started with a real life person, took a photograph, which is washing out some of the quality. Depending on your camera, it could be washing out a lot of it. Your choice of lighting, or, maybe it wasn't your choice, but the lighting you had may not have been the greatest. Then you go one step further and you print it. If your printer's not great, then it's washing out details even more. So you, as the artist, can take something called artistic license. If you know your photo is very gray, and this one is getting on the gray side, you can take your lightest lights and make them a little lighter, and your darkest darks and make them a little darker. Okay? You know in reality that range of value is greater than what you're seeing in your printed copy. So you can do that. But you're going to take your value chart and you're going to hold it up and see how close you are coming. Okay, so let's take the mouth. Up here, my mouth is very dark at the top of the inside of the mouth. Here, it's much lighter. So I'd go in and refine that. I'm probably going to tip it sideways and work in here. I can also refine the shape. Here, I know, we're going to lose it if I do that. Here, I know that this scoops down a little more than I have it, and we probably have a little bit of lip that I'm not accounting for in there. This is where all that refining happens. So I would want to come up here. I'm using a 6B pencil right now, but there are times you might want to use a 2B. And I'm going to get in there and get darker where I know it's dark. It's going to run down to lighter. And I also know that that's not so wide there. It gets a little more curved in as we go through that way. And there's a strong highlight right on the edge. Okay, so you're fine-tuning as you go. You guys aren't going to watch me do this whole thing. You're going to probably see the finished one from demos in class, because I don't want to keep you that long. But we know that there's a lip down in here, and the lip would have just the slightest hair darkness, probably not as dark as up here. And you can, and I push a little less to get it a little lighter as I'm kind of gradating down here. Now, notice I'm not doing a lot of smudging now. Sometimes it'll happen, definitely, but not so much. Okay, this has more tone to it. So I say that, and then I immediately smudge. But there are other areas that you want to think of, not just in the features, but say, for instance, under the nostrils here. It's much darker right in here. Place that up. I might even switch to maybe a 2B. Yeah, I'm going to switch to the 2B for a minute here. And then you can actually fine tune a little bit under here. And now I'm doing, you don't want to just scribble, okay? It looks like I'm scribbling. The pencil's moving fast, but it's very controlled in terms of I'm pushing lightly and I'm making strokes that are very close to each other. Some people do sort of rounded strokes that overlap. Some people do straight ones. It doesn't really matter. There's a million ways to draw. But I can fine tune. I can make this line here comes out into the cheek a little bit more this way. I can play that up. It gets a little lighter as I come out here. I can make them lighter, longer strokes. Along here, it's a little more like the fabric that the baby's leaning against is casting a little bit of shadow on the head. And this seems like we're getting really dark now, but we haven't even started using the compressed charcoal, and that's much darker. So it's all relative, really. Up in here, you're going to have some areas that are a little darker. This area here, you've got that little puff underneath. Part of that I might have done more with the blocking stage, but we'll go straight to it for the sake of it now. Up here, your eyelashes, not eyelashes, I'm sorry, eyebrows. The hair part of the eyebrow, though, not the bone and muscle part. You come up like that. And you're going to fine tune, like there's a little fold going on here that we want to think about, and that relates to the puff under the eye that we talked about in the other video. You can always erase, so don't be afraid to take a little bit of a risk. You know, be reasonable about it, but that eyebrow's a little too high probably, or the line is a little too low. But you want to build up slowly. Now, the other thing is that you can take these lines, and if it's looking too patchy, don't be afraid to go right across the cheek and just place some of it up more than others, but unify. You know, coming down in here, there's all sorts of shadow going on. We can always chisel out the highlights. This is the shadowy side of the face. There's definitely some highlights going on right around there. We can worry about those as we go. Under the nose. This is going to define where it's nose, where it's the tip of the nose, where it's the nostril a little bit. This again isn't going to be an outline, just the darkest part of that shadow. So it takes a little bit of time and patience, and it takes a lot of observation, but don't be afraid to build it up more, okay? The other thing that's important is when you think about the baby's skull, this is a perfect example. That blocking underneath that's on the actual surface should go all the way up the skull. It shouldn't end where you think the hair is going to be. If it's somebody with bangs coming down, you still want to put some shading and shadows on the skull, because you're going to come back and make those hairs wisp in. Maybe I should go in the other way. Nope, can't do that. You know, down here, you're going to see a little bit in front of the ear. This will wisp in around like that. And you see the skull through the individual hairs is the bottom line. Where they roll around the skull, they overlap and they get a little darker. And that's going to start developing form. Okay? Consider the angle. Is it the hair coming out at the hairline and going back? Or is it hair that's coming down from on top and wisping into the, you know, like, not attached, but like a bang, wisping along down here. Okay? But you want that shading underneath, and then you want to reinforce it with what you do with the hair on top. Okay? So you're going to build, you're going to refine. You can take a little bit of the edge off of it if you want, if the line bothers you. But remember, you're doing implied edges. I'm going to switch back to the one that I was working on in class. It's a little more finished. And the thing about that is all of this that may have seemed really dark in the other one, and it is dark. I think it's darker in the video now that I'm looking at my settings. It's a little darker on the screen than it is in real life. But that's all relative, because then you're going in with the charcoal and you're doing some even darker things. I lost my baby. Here she is over here. All right. So think about this. And you don't want to overuse this particularly early, because this is hard to get rid of. All of a sudden, when you've got a black that's that black, this doesn't seem as dark. Not in real life. It actually seems really dark in the video now that I'm looking at it. But at any rate, it's all relative to what you do with the rest of it. So if you start doing in that helmet with a range of values that runs more like that, I'm not seeing that on there, runs more like that, then all of a sudden the colors you're using in the face seem almost washed out. Okay? The more we get that in there, the more these colors are relative to it. Okay? It's a deep, deep shadow up here under the cloth where the helmet is there. And some shadows. This is all a lot in shadow down here. And we haven't even started on the fabric yet that's around the baby. So this is the refining stage. You want to really look at your darks and lights and get a wide range of value. You want to start thinking details and refining the shapes, and just refining more and more and more until you get it exactly the way you want it. So if we have to do another video, if you guys have a lot of the same questions, we will add one. But other than that, I just can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And don't worry, don't stress. Follow along with the videos as best you can. Ask good questions, because you're probably not the only one with the question, and I'll answer everybody in Google Classroom. Any questions? Give me a yell. Can't wait to see what you come up with. Have a great day.